We're live, but you don't like to talk to me before they can hear us in the chat room, so I'll just be quiet.
We're live now?
Since you're not going to talk to me anyway.
I didn't know we were live.
We are, but nobody can hear it yet.
Oh, okay. Well, tell me when that changes.
And then you'll talk to me?
And then I'll talk to you.
It's Sunday morning, everybody. We are here. Loud and proud.
All we need is a little sound.
Are we loud and proud, Leonard?
We are proud, but not loud.
Yes, we are. We're loud.
Okay.
Coming through, loud and clear. No, I don't know yet. Let me check. It'll be on us soon. For those of you listening on demand, you know I like to tell you at this opportunity that you could join us any day of the week at 9 a.m. Eastern Time at Lenny Melnick FantasySports.com/live. It's either me or Lenny every single day of the entire year.
And both of us some days.
And on Sundays?
Sundays. And when I yell at you off the air, that's another time we're together, okay?
When you yell at me on the air is the worst.
Yeah, well, okay.
Okay, because I can handle you any other time, but I try to maintain my composure, okay, when I'm on air, although I'm not great at it. So, anyway, we're just going to refresh. So, this is what we like to do. We like to get the thing in motion, and then we wait for the chat room to fill up. We wait for the sound to come through because we have a great interactive chat room that you could be a part of if you come to the website. And no spam, no ads, no emails, no information. We take zilch from you. So if you have a minute, come on down, enjoy the chat room, talk some baseball.
We have sound.
Talk some shit.
Hey, easy on you. Welcome aboard, everybody, on a lovely Sunday morning. And here it is. We're approaching Christmas. We're approaching New Year, the New Year turning over. Now, Andy, is this the traditional time that many people begin to prepare for fantasy baseball? Or is it earlier in some cases? Or do some people think it's not time yet? They wait for spring training. When do you think the ideal time is for most people?
For most people, I think the ideal time is after the holidays. As soon as the holidays are over, football is already over, so I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that when football finishes for you, the next thing you got on your plate is fantasy baseball, and I think that's the case for a lot of people. But just your average guy that plays fantasy baseball probably typically doesn't start really honing in until after the holidays.
Well, what about after the Super Bowl? SM King Turd in the chat room. And put your answers up in the chat room.
King Turd. Zelmo. Good morning to Zelmo. Good morning to Tony. Good morning to Boston Paul. Good morning to Malpal. Tina, Danny, Penny. Chris from Cambridge is back.
Yep.
Great to see you all.
Well, this is great. Boston Paul is preparing now. King Turd says he prepares after the Super Bowl. Okay, Danny Fuller, as soon as my season ended, I started. But okay, that's pretty interesting.
King Turd only takes in the info at the moment. And, that's one of the things. We talk fantasy baseball. That's really the niche of our show, but we just talk baseball all year long, whether it pertains to fantasy or not. And as Turd says, he won't touch rankings until March. We just got the baseball forecaster, so obviously people are doing it. I noticed that RotoWire doesn't even have the 2024 projections up yet, but they will, and when they do, the floodgates are open for us.
Right, and what we do is now, for those who prepare, depends what you mean by prepare.
What's an average expert, Malpal? It's in quotation marks. Is it so-called expert? Because there's a lot of those out there. An expert really is defined as somebody who's able to put in a lot of their time towards something, where they put in so much time that the normal guy doesn't have access to all that time.
Right, and an expert shares that. To be called an expert, you must share it. You also must have a record of winning in my opinion. There are some people who think winning does not make you an expert. I say it does. You don't have to win every league, but winning makes you an expert. It promotes you in the proper way, and you got to find a place to get out there and share your expertise. You can't be an expert if only you know about it, okay? Right? You got to show the world what you can do.
Well, there's a lot of people that think they're experts in everything. And whether or not they say they're an expert, I mean, to me, it's like a huge red flag at this point in my life. When I hear the word expert, I'm thinking, basically, you're just telling me you're an expert, so I'll believe what you say.
If you've got a love for the game and you put it out there every day and you're willing to talk to people who admit they're not experts and willing to help them or compete against them, then that to me is an expert. Okay, so
but as for baseball, isn't really every passionate fan kind of an expert of their own team at least?
Well, of their own team, and then you put it all together.
Anyway, that's why we have lots of people in the chat room from all over the country, and we have resident insiders, and that's because these people have access to the local newspapers, to the local, rumblings.
Yes, if there's one thing I can tell you that you must do right now, the most important thing, and believe me, if you wait too long, you can have a problem. You need to get last year, 2023. You need to go back and make sure you can retrieve last year's
Yes, this is so important.
final numbers.
Believe me, say it again, Leonard. Tell them again.
You need to get last year's stats so you can have some kind of a comparison.
A lot of league websites, they delete those stats from year to year, and if you're playing in a redraft league with the same people every year, those stats will be deleted before too long, so you need to go in there, find out your targets. You have category targets, and if you play against the same people every year, you can help yourself out a ton by targeting a certain number in each category that will keep you in the top of the league. And as you draft, you keep track of the projected stats that you have, and you make sure that you hit all your targets. Not having last year's final standings and category standings is the worst thing, because all of a sudden you'll be ready to go prepare for that league, and you'll be like, oh, I finished third. Wait a minute. What do I have to do to finish third? Right?
Good morning to Tommy Johnson, Triple Play. Good morning to Mal Pal. Good morning to Laura. Good morning to Brooke Santanello.
Hello, Laura. Okay. Great to see you, girl.
Now, when you talk about stats, when do you prepare? When do you make your lists? You've got to get on the ball, and for example, if you're in a 12-team league, you make a list of every player you feel will be drafted, okay? If you're in a 12-team league, as an example, okay? You know what, I'll make that, even if you're in a 10-team league.
It's easier to do the math when
you make a list of every player you feel, and then if you're in an auction format, you put a dollar amount next to every player, you add them all up, and it's got to equal 10 teams times 260,
or 2,600.
If you're 12 teams, so on and so forth, you have to make your adjustments.
Because there's only so much money that can be spent at drafts. So when you look at dollar values on most websites, in fact, like 98% of websites, you're going to see dollar values next to players who will not be drafted. And when you add up all these player values, you're going to get unlimited money, and there is not unlimited money to be spent at these drafts. So I think it's great tidbit to really make sure that your dollar values add up to the amount of money that can be spent that day.
That's right.
And it doesn't have to be perfect, but the other way that this is very useful is that when you're drafting and you have somebody, let's say you have Max Scherzer at $5. If he goes for $1, that's negative $4 that's being spent. You know when you start how much money can be spent by everybody in the group. And the beginning of the draft tells you a whole lot about how people are spending their money. If they're holding back, you need to start spending because they're getting players way too cheap. All of a sudden, there will be no great players left, and you'll have all the money. So you have to monitor how the draft is going. Sometimes people just start spending crazy right out of the get-go, and you can hold back for a little bit because you know that these people are running out of money, and you still have a lot of money.
Fantastic. Great stuff by Andrea, letting you know
Thanks, Leonard.
What to do. You did a good job there. Okay. Now,
Flaherty.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty. We're going to talk about players that, have hidden value, some that have too much value. We're also going to talk about what there is now in fantasy baseball and Major League Baseball. And right now, it's all conjecture. People are guessing. We've talked about this. We've really unveiled it as the sports writers are just... John Morosi came out last week, admitted he made a serious error in his calculation. So he was very honest, very open. He's only started talking about it now. But all you can do, it's different now. Because weeks ago, everybody was just guessing. And every team had every player had 7 or 8 different teams interested. Now, they're narrowing it down. And they're narrowing it down player by player, team by team. So we'll give you some of the interesting things we've discovered as we talk to many of the beat writers, many of the experts, and we try to put it all together for you every day.
Okay. We have some chat room stuff going on that I'd like to keep you apprised of, as you would say, abreast.
Yes.
Okay. SM King Turd says that he might have his safest keepers ever. Let's see. I lost it. Hold on one second. It's worth seeing. And he's got Riley.
Yeah.
He's got Riley. He's got Bryce Harper, which is what caught my attention the most.
That's pretty good.
I can't find this.
And how much do you...
anyway.
Yes.
He says that he's ready for Malpal's formula being integrated into his home league drafts. He thinks it's going to help him avoid some shiny object blind spots that he is guilty of taking, like Javi Baez, right?
Javi Baez
now,
is one.
Or maybe Christian Javier is who he's talking.
Christian Javier.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, wow.
It's not Javi Baez because this formula is for pitchers.
Okay.
Okay, so it's Christian Javier that he's talking about. And I want to make sure that people understand that the Malpal formula will come to fruition before you're ready to do your schoolwork, King Turd. We're going to do it in February, and it is going to be great. We are going to talk about some shiny blind spots and some potential breakout pitchers because this formula does work. But yes.
Potential breakout pitchers. I'll throw you one that I'm really jumping on, and that is Jack Flaherty. When I noticed that, and listen to this, you might want to write this down. Jack Flaherty had 6 games last year of 1 run or less that took him through 6 innings. I'll repeat, 6 games of 1 run or less through 6 innings. That, to me, shows that this is a pitcher who absolutely could emerge. If he puts together these great games, you're talking about a pitcher who's going to be very undervalued.
No, I disagree wholeheartedly with Jack Flaherty being any good. The guy pitched 144 innings last year, and his ERA was .499 and with a 158 whip. And you'll say to me, well, you remember when he pitched 78 innings, or do you remember when he pitched 196 innings and had a 2.75 ERA with 231 strikeouts? One thing I could say about Flaherty is that he does strike batters out. But where did he get this .499 ERA, you say?
Well, he had a 4.84 ERA over the last 2 years, a 1.59 WHIP in 180 innings. If he can return to his early career form, he would be part of a key piece in the Tigers' new rotation that includes Tarek Skubal and Kenta Maeda, who was an off-season addition. I like Flaherty a lot. I think he's going to be a very, as a matter of fact, I'll take Flaherty.
Go ahead.
Over Tyler Glasnow.
You are just out
I'm
of your
taking
freaking
Flaherty over
okay,
Tyler
first of all,
Glasnow.
you know this guy is confused, okay, about everything. Jack Flaherty is confused. He's crazy. He's not... Okay, I shouldn't say those terms without backing it up. But the guy is a disaster, okay? He finished the season horribly. He didn't even pitch, not even 5 innings in all of September, even though he was out on the mound 5 different times. He walks 4.12 batters per 9 innings, which is no bueno, my friend. And it doesn't help that he will strike out batters, and that's the only good thing I could say. It doesn't help that he is now in the Detroit ballpark. The St. Louis ballpark is a ballpark that slightly favors pitchers, so it's right kind of in the middle, but it does help him. When you go to a place like Detroit, where Comerica Park is an open-air ballpark, and it's large but narrow foul areas, and a foreshortened power alley in the right make it an overall benefit to the hitters, especially lefties.
But Tyler Glasnow, everybody's favorite, traded twice. You wonder about that right away. His injury history, he's pitched more than 90 innings in a season only twice.
Okay, fine. But he spent the whole season out with Tommy John surgery, which gave him a brand new elbow, by the way.
What makes you think that he's going to come back?
Because he came back after Tommy John. He came back a better pitcher, and he is a better pitcher. He threw 120 innings last year. I'm not saying that is reliable. I get people's points of view that they can't draft him in fantasy, but it does come down to how much he's going to cost. When this guy is a great pitcher. He's like, I'm not going to say he's like Kershaw, but he's comparable to Kershaw in that when he pitches, he is an excellent pitcher. Yes, I realize that he hasn't pitched more than 90 innings, and I'm a stickler kind of for that. I can't rely on a guy, but when you're looking at guys that you're drafting in fantasy, and it's round 6, 7, 8, 9, and Glasnow is still there.
That's different. People are drafting him much higher than that.
Well,
they think that Glasnow is a top of the rotation pitcher, and I say,
well, he is according to the Dodgers, because the Dodgers put him at the top of their rotation.
Over the past 11 years, the Dodgers used an average of 13 pitchers to start games every year. Last year it was 17.
That's what they get.
Starting depth dissolved as the season went on. The Dodgers, so they took the Dodgers starting pitcher.
They're not done yet, right?
They got Tyler Glasnow, Walker Buehler, Bobby Miller, Emmett Sheehan, Gavin Stone, Ryan Yarbrough, Landon, Michael Grove, Kyle Hurt. Unbelievable. So I'm taking the position that Glasnow does not exceed his projected values. I say
I think you skipped the Sean Manaea information.
Yes, I did.
I did a lot of work on that.
Well, I didn't think. All right, look, we're going.
We're going in order.
She wants to talk about Sean Manaea, okay?
And Josh Reddick and all of those things.
So there you go. So let's talk about the Giants, who are still, they've been talked about being interested in Sean Manaea, and now Susan Slusser from the San Francisco Chronicle. You see, we talked to a lot of people. There hasn't been much buzz since he opted out of the final year of his previous contract with the Giants to test the open market. It stands to reason Manaea might get more looks as more and more free agent pitchers come off the board.
Okay.
And the Giants' pitching needs haven't really changed since the offseason began. Manaea might be a reasonable addition, but they're going after Yamamoto.
Yes, they're going after Yamamoto, and it's probably going to be dependent on the Yamamoto stuff. The Giants are not messing around. I warn you all. They are not going to just sit by quietly while the Dodgers do this to them, because they definitely need pitching, right? And what better place can a pitcher end up than the Giants ballpark? It's great for pitchers. The final 4 starts, Sean Manaea. Okay, total of 4 starts, 24 innings pitched, a 2.25 ERA, 18 strikeouts. Okay, now this is the thing. His strikeouts keep him in the market to be a decent pitcher.
Yeah, almost 26%.
Yes, if he lost those strikeouts, he would be nothing. But the problem is his ground ball rate has never been over 40, which, okay, it's not horrible, it's not great, but if he gets to a ballpark like San Francisco, where it's impossible to hit a home run, then he can manage to he could be a good sleeper, depending on where he ends up.
So I'm going to ask the chat room loud and clear. All right, think about this for a second. Who would you rather have next year? And we say good morning to Dr. Timko, say good morning to the King of all Haps. Who would you rather have next year? Tyler Glasnow or...
Oh, come on. Give me a good break. Look, Manaea, 93.6
Tyler Glasnow or Jack Flaherty. Go ahead.
Yes, okay. Tell me in the chat room. Who do you like? Flaherty or... Glasnow. And it's not just the numbers that should be putting up a huge red flag for Flaherty owners, okay? He's confused. So you put a note in here about Josh Reddick, and what do? I go and I look up Josh Bell. So yes, I added a tidbit, okay?
Okay.
Josh Reddick was your tidbit, so I'll let you read it.
Well, he has not been hit by a single pitch in the last 939 regular season and postseason games. That's the longest streak of Major League Baseball games without being hit by a pitch in the 2000s. Josh Reddick, my hero.
Josh Bell. So what do? I go and I look up Josh Bell, who's 31, right? He's always an interesting fantasy guy, in my opinion. He's an interesting fantasy guy. He did exercise his $16.5 million player option, and I think, look, he did hit 22 home runs last year. His batting average was .247, and you don't rely on him for stolen bases. You rely on him for power. The thing is that because he only hit 22 home runs last year, you know he's going to fall down the fantasy rankings. But he began the season with the Guardians. He had a 701 OPS, and this is what destroyed his overall yearly numbers. After he got traded to Miami, he batted .270, his on-base percentage .338, 11 home runs in just 53 games. Now, Miami is not the best home run ballpark, but Josh Bell went there. He got to play every day. He fit right in right away, and he is slated to be the Marlins opening day starting first baseman. And if you average out those 11 home runs in 53 games over a full season, that's 35 homers. We know he's capable of it. He's 32 this year.
He could go for $13. He could go for $14.
Yes.
He could go for $15.
Yes.
That's it. Okay?
Right.
So I think he's pretty good. Now, who do you think the best pitcher in Major League Baseball is this year?
It's not Garrett Cole.
Oh, really?
It's Spencer Strider.
You think it's Spencer Strider
Yes,
over
I do.
Garrett Cole? Cole is the first pitcher to do 20-plus starts against winning teams in any one regular season without taking a loss from any of the winning teams. He started 20 games in 2023 against teams with winning records. He didn't lose a game to any of them.
I'll give him credit for that.
How could you say Spencer Strider?
I just don't, I have a bias, and I'll admit my bias against Garrett Cole. is overrated, but how can I keep saying he's overrated when he continues to put up numbers? I just can't even reasonably say that anymore. I just don't like him.
And what do you like about...
I give him credit for not ever losing to a winning record team, though.
Why would you say Spencer Strider?
Because Spencer Strider is the guy that is, well, he's young. He's had enough experience now to count on. His ERA was inflated totally, and this is why I'm saying guys that are going to, I don't know where he's being drafted, okay? Now, I'm not going to draft one of these guys pitching until the third, fourth, fifth round, depending. I'm not going to let all the starting pitchers go away, so I can't really guarantee. You should never go into a draft saying, I'm not going to draft a pitcher before the fifth round, or I'm not going to draft a closer. You have to draft a good pitcher before they all get drafted.
You've got to play the room.
Yes.
You can't not play the room. And if you're in an auction format, if you throw out a $40 player early, and you know that 40, 41, 42 is the going rate, and he goes for a couple of dollars less, the room is light, you can proceed by doing the same. Throw out a $35 player, and you'll get him for $35 or less. That's how you play the game.
Or throw out a DH.
If you throw... Here's one of the trade secrets.
Okay.
If you really like a DH, and that DH really has to be a power speed kind of guy, throw him out first.
Big Papi was the best one for this.
How many fantasy owners do not want to tie up their DH spot or utility spot?
Well, that's right. They don't want to fill up that DH spot until they're stuck in a rut where they have to fill it up. But let me tell you, you throw out a DH type guy, which now the whole league has a DH.
Right.
So, but I will say the one that comes to mind the most in this situation is when we used to throw out Big Papi when he was towards the end of his career, and you knew you were going to still get 35 bombs from this guy, but people were not drafting him and they didn't want to fill up their DH spot early in the draft, so the first player you throw out is Big Papi for $5, and then you get him because everybody just sits there and goes,
Yep.
Okay. Moving on.
Kansas City has been very...
Aren't we going to talk about... Let me just talk about Spencer Strider. This is from Codify Baseball on Twitter, on X. Codify Baseball is a great follow if you want stats and stuff for baseball, which all of you do. Spencer Strider during the 2023 regular season versus teams that won at least 79 games.
Hey, Mexico, what do you say, Mexico? Go.
The teams that were the best last year were the easiest for Spencer Strider. Basically, against teams that had at least 79 wins, okay? He had an on-base or an opposing batting average, so an opposing batting average of 173, an opposing on-base percentage of 237, and a 2.60 ERA. And against teams that won fewer than 79 games, he was horrible. He had a batting average against of 275, a on-base percentage against 352. So, again, this is just a tidbit. It doesn't really mean a lot for fantasy, except that once again, Spencer Strider was good against the good teams and not so good against the bad teams. Now, the Royals. We talked a lot about the Royals yesterday, right? They've spent $105 million in free agency so far this offseason. We talked about the reasons why. They figured out that they cannot lose their way to the best draft pick, and the Red Sox have only spent $1 million.
Okay. And what do you think about Kansas City?
What do you think about this idea that the Red Sox threw out $300 million offer to Yamamoto, which is $100 million more than anybody was expecting? Obviously, the Ohtani signing is going to...
He hasn't turned them down yet.
Do you believe that that's true? That they offered him $300 million? I mean, is that a smart baseball decision when you're the Red Sox and you need a lot more than... Yamamoto, you don't even know if this guy can pitch in the state. That is such a risk.
I think it's very possible. And what do you think now?
Well, tell me what you think.
I think it could be true. I have no way of knowing it's true. Wouldn't be. The Red Sox are in a lot of trouble. They haven't done anything this offseason. They got a catcher, second string catcher. That's it. For example, this is what the players are dominating this offseason market because nobody's making a move because Yamamoto's still out there, and they don't know if they're getting him. The offers are kind of close. If the Red Sox go $300,000, so be it. They can afford it. Okay, they can afford. Now, if the Mets went $300,000, here's another thing. The Mets, they have a different signature mark. If the Mets went with the highest paid offer to Yamamoto and he turns them down, what's your opinion of the Mets? If the Mets had a $300,000, the highest paid, and what does it say about the Mets?
The Mets, I really think, I have to agree with the Met, this idea of what they said about the Mets. It says the New York Mets, Yamamoto exists in a special category of one, but according to people briefed on the club's thinking, which is like a game of telephone, by the way, the Mets view Yamamoto, the 25-year-old star free agent pitcher from Japan, as someone at the top of the market worth pursuing as hard as possible. In that regard, he stands alone on a player worth splurging on, but you think about if the Mets don't land Yamamoto.
How about if they have the highest offer and they don't land Yamamoto?
They're not going to have the highest offer and not plan. Well, that's why can't I say that? Am I not allowed to have an opinion?
You
don't on this?
know an opinion. Look, this winter's...
Nobody knows. This is not something that's a fact or not fact.
It's the first winter under President of Baseball Operation David Stearns.
Right.
The Mets have distributed just a few one-year deals to complimentary players or players looking to recapture past success. So if the Mets do miss out on Yamamoto, they are not expected to simply pivot to the next best pitcher, which would be Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery. The Mets would drop down and somewhere and get Lucas Giolito type. That's what the Mets are saying.
I know they never talk about, but Trevor Bauer is available too, and he should be eventually considered as the next best pitcher to go off the board. I mean, I get that he may or may not ever play Major League Baseball again, but it just makes my blood boil when these people act like he doesn't exist. So let's talk about Steve Cohen last year, who authorized the highest payroll in baseball history. Frankly, back to the Bauer thing 1 second. Whoever gets Yamamoto should take in Bauer as well. They're going to pay a lot less money for this guy. They played over in Japan, not on the same team, but in the same league. Clearly, Bauer's team in Japan wants him back, so he hasn't wrecked his reputation in Japan yet. And why not? So this is the thing. You get 2 for 1 if you take on Yamamoto and Bauer. You get really 2 for 1 because Bauer is going to be cheap to get. But David Stearns, as you said, it's his first season with the Mets. Last year, Steve Cohen said, I'm authorizing the highest payroll in baseball history. And I think a lot of Mets fans are now saying, all right, so clearly that didn't pan out, and we got rid of 2 of those huge-ass contracts that we signed. Now they have plenty of wiggle room, and I just don't see the Mets sitting around doing nothing. They definitely have holes in their pitching. Honestly, you look at their rotation, they got nobody. They got rid of DeGrom, they got rid of Scherzer, they got rid of Verlander. As quick as they got him, they let him go. Not saying that those guys are aces anymore, but you know what I mean. They're stuck. What about and the Yankees too? The Yankees, they got Soto now, but they certainly have to get more pitching. So I say I believe that because the New York teams, not just because everybody likes to throw all the players at the Yankees and the Mets, but the fact is these 2 teams both need pitching. They both need Yamamoto. If Yamamoto even is half as good as what people are pricing him out to be, I mean, think about this, dude. He's being hyped crazy. This guy's never pitched.
And he's 25.
And he's 25. He's going to get the high $300 million is what they're saying the Red Sox have offered this guy.
Right.
What a mistake that would be for Red Sox. But you know what? I'll ask Boston Paul this in the chat room. Boston Paul made a comment to me a few days ago about if the Red Sox don't do something serious, if they let Yamamoto go, or if they let, I can't remember the specific player that he used, then they're dead to me, is what he said.
And that's what Mets fans are going to feel as well.
The Mets fans don't act like that.
If the Mets don't land Yamamoto, their offseason will continue to play. Remember last year, Steve Cohen authorized the highest payroll in baseball history. This winter, the Mets have distributed very little. If the Mets miss out on Yamamoto, they're not, as I said, they're not going to drop down. Oh, let's get Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery. The Met roster features holes, so that they'll remain active. They'll spend money. But people familiar with the club's thinking expect them to continue to dole out 1- and 2-year contracts. Not like last season when they signed Verlander, Carlos Rodon, and it sounds like the Mets have more focused approach on the 2024
Danny
season.
says he thinks Yamamoto is going to get $400 million. Boston Paul, which player was it that you said that the Red Sox will be dead to you if they don't sign this? Also, this Imanaga, he was officially posted on Monday by Nippon Professional Baseball's Bay Stars and will be eligible to meet with teams once MLB approves the posting. Now, basically assuming that MLB approves the posting, he's 30 years old, he's a lefty, he then has 45 days to agree to a contract with the team. And any MLB that signs this guy will also be responsible for posting the fee that goes to the Japanese team that he came from, the Bay Stars. He put up a 2.66 ERA, a 1.02 WHIP, with 188 strikeouts and 24 walks in 159 innings. So why is it because Yamamoto is 25 and this guy is 30? Look at his stats. They're absolutely good, but the media and the experts, they're viewing this guy as a mid-rotation starter for the big leagues. But geez Louise, look at his strikeouts, 188 and 159 innings. There's just no way around that with his whip, 104 or 102, because he hardly ever walks anybody. So you're going to pay 25-year-old Yamamoto $300 million. You're only going to pay Imanaga. What are you going to pay him? We don't know yet. But here's how the fees work for the Japanese team that let him go.
Hello, Rotorius. Go ahead.
The Bay Stars will receive the release fee of 20% of his contract if it's less than $25 million. $5 million plus 17.5% of the contract if it's over $25 million. As long as it hasn't reached 50. If they pay him $50 million, the team has to pay. They have to pay the fee too. Or wait, no, it's Imanaga that has to pay the fee. So whatever team gets Imanaga, are they responsible for? The notes here say that the team that signs Imanaga will also be responsible for a posting fee. But Imanaga has to pay the Bay Stars a percentage of his contract, whatever it is.
Too confusing for me. All I know is
that means I didn't do a good job explaining it.
No, you didn't.
I'm sorry.
The Giants, all right, I'll put it in a nutshell. The Giants have shown interest in Shota Imanaga.
Okay.
That's it.
The Giants.
The Giants.
Like I said, there's no reason to believe that this guy is only worth a middle of the rotation guy when the numbers that he put up in Japan are as good as Yamamoto's numbers.
But here's the deal. They want Imanaga. Maybe it's to lure Yamamoto, but it'll be Blake Snell they turn to next. It sounds like the Giants are doing their work.
So maybe a team will sign Imanaga to lure Yamamoto. That was a very interesting, specific thing that you just said.
Yes.
A lot of people are thinking that this guy won't be signed until Yamamoto is already on a team.
Well, maybe. All right, let's talk about two other things.
The Mariners?
Yeah, the Mariners.
We get a little love for the Mariners here, right?
They've shown interest in Rhys Hoskins, among others. He's 30, born and raised in Northern California, so the geography could help Seattle in its place. And a player that we've talked about all off season, and that's Jonathan India. His trade talks remain active.
Laura makes a good point. She says she agrees with you on the Mets that they're not going to try to buy a winner, a top pitcher, because their minor league system is now in the top 5. See, that's why we have the resident insiders, and Laura is a resident insider for the Mets. Turd talks about AJ Failure. He says he's not sure what Preller has to do to get fired. He's John Daniels 2.0. Danny says the Red Sox fans and the stadium are the best he ever attended. The Stankies and the Mets right up with the Dodgers, which is not so good. Have you ever been to PNC Park? Have you ever been to Cincinnati? Okay, those two are pretty darn good. PNC Park is the best that I've been to.
I think so, too.
I haven't been to Giants. I hear that's pretty good.
That's pretty good. And the beauty of Cincinnati is right outside the stadium, they've got so many great places to go to eat, to get some...
Fenway?
Cincinnati.
Oh, Cincinnati is
Right.
good. But Fenway has a good Yawkey way.
So Jonathan India...
All right, hold on. Let me finish. Go ahead.
Many teams are engaged with the Reds on Jonathan India. He won't be eligible for free agency until 2006. He's 27. He's only played second base, but I'll tell you, a lot of teams are after him, and I can't even go through how many different teams were. But he'll be on the market, and he'll be off the market pretty quick. Okay, ever since they added Heimer Candelario. Teams are engaged with the Reds on India, and that's going to happen sooner than later.
Okay.
Anything
That's
else?
all we got.
Anything
Let
else
me
you wanna
finish
go
up with
over?
the chat room. We got
All right,
a
go
lot
ahead.
of interesting real points in
Merrill
here.
is
They're
here.
talking
Good
about the
morning.
Japanese pitchers that have come over and
Yes.
how good have they been. Tommy Johnson says, I don't think teams should go all out for Yamamoto. In fact, pitching in the MLB is very different compared to Japan.
Yes.
He thinks that's a big risk and should be very prudent about it. I agree with him 100%, absolutely. Malpal says the owner in San Diego passing away may cost Preller his job. They just need to ride his contract out another year. I would say the chances are good that Preller, after this year, if he makes it through it, they're done with him.
And San Diego has come out and said they are cutting back their payroll big time. So big time to cut back their payroll in San Diego.
One good point brought up in the chat room is that Senga was great for the Mets.
Yes.
And the Mets, could they lure Yamamoto by having that Senga on their team? I mean,
it can only be a plus.
to be able to speak a language is a good thing, especially in a new place. A lot of people think that we all agree that the New York media and the fans are...
Chris Gallo has made it in. Good morning.
And Brooksy, did you say hi to
Yes.
Brooksy?
He's been in here.
We talked to Brooksy.
all
He
morning.
works, over there, right by the Cincinnati ballpark.
That's great.
He works at the football,
Love the
which
Brooks.
is right across the street, the
Yep.
water. Is
Love
it
Brooks.
across the water? I can't remember, but I can remember seeing it from the front of the
Yep,
Cincinnati
that's
ballpark.
right.
We ate everything that day. Of course, you have to try both the chilies before
Yep,
you go.
That's for sure.
You got to try both the chilies. You got to try their big boy hamburgers at the ballpark. We drank margaritas. We ate sushi. We had calamari. We ate nachos.
Nobody else has a better life than the lady and the legend.
And then we
Every day at 9 o'clock, one of us is here. Monday, Tuesday, and all the rest of the days.
And then what did we
then-
do after the game? We got in the car and we drove to Washington, D.C.
Yeah,
overnight
just
so
to
we
see-
could see Jordan Zimmerman
Oh
pitch.
my God!
And my stomach hurt so bad, dude. It was horrible. And then we hit the D.C. traffic at like 5 in the morning, and it took us like 2 hours just to get 5 miles to our hotel.
Well, thank you, everybody. Boston Paul, Brooks, Chris from Cambridge, Chris from Gallo. Danny Fuller, Dennis Timko, King Hap, Laura, Malpal, you got Leonard Donaldson, you got Marilyn Mitchell and Methical and Roto Lady and Rotom. Pretty good, huh? SM King Turd, Tommy Johnson, Triple Plays, Zelmo. Look out, everybody. We'll be back again tomorrow. And don't forget, all right, now listen. I'm going to do it again, okay? 631. You got that? I'm writing it down. 067141.
I bet more people would call if you told them not to.
That's the phone number. Let's see. Don't call. Do not call. You touch the phone to call.
Do not call us.
Do not call us. I put the number in the chat room just to make it difficult for you. But do not call us at 631-406-7141.
Have a great day, everybody.
Have a great day. Remember, don't call. Don't call, all right? Because Ed Heckman's at church. He's praying for us.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. You can call if you have any questions that come up during the course of the day or the week. You got the phone number. Don't call. We're going to stay on for one more minute just to see if anybody gets desperate. Okay? We'll see. Thanks, Lady in the Legend. Who's calling now?
Nobody.
Boston Paul said he was calling. He was told not to. Thank you, everybody. Love you.
Who told you not to call?
No, but he doesn't know. He doesn't listen.
I
anyway.
mean, just to say that, that means that I told you not to call?
It doesn't matter.
That's not true.
Thanks, Chris Gallo, for waking up.
I told you that you don't have to call. Don't feel like you need to call. People that listen to this show, most of them don't call, but it's not because they don't like us. It's because they don't listen to this show to listen to their own voice.
Thanks, everybody. We will talk to you again tomorrow, 9 a.m. Hello and goodbye.